Hello everyone. Okay, I hope we're all well and happy. So this is only quite a short video, you'll be pleased to know. So we've basically done all the structure of government, so that should be pleased with that. And you did that big table, didn't you, last time about changes to the structure of central government. Because of course, remember in a paragraph on this, which you're all busily writing, some of you have already finished, it's about change and continuity. So hopefully that table you had to fill in. I'd like to have a bit of a think about, well, what changes did the different rulers make, but also think about what remained the same, okay? And as I've said, I would always argue these types of questions being that things really were the same throughout the period. Now, the third paragraph, if it's a general question about government, did the communists make more changes to the czars in the way they ran the country, or that type of question? Obviously, do a paragraph on ideology, a paragraph on structures, and then your third paragraph will be about how they dealt with opposition. So, what we're going to do, and this is the last bit really we're going to do between now and kind of June, what would have been like the June or the May half term period. So, just over a week, we'll just finish off means of repression, opposition to communists and czars, and then we're kind of done with Russia for this year. So we're doing a bit of a heavy bit really. So basically by 1st of June or something of that nature, we'll have Russia all done in terms of what we're going to do this year, which then means you can concentrate for the last 3 or 4 weeks before the summer jollies kick in, getting on with some of that coursework essentially. So the light is at the end of the tunnel, you'll be pleased to know. Right, so what we're going to look at, so our last topic of the year, as we look at it that way, is on repression and opposition. This is something students often quite like because it involves kind of people being nasty to people, essentially. What we're going to do, we'll look at means of repression first of all, means of controlling people, and then we'll have a look at opposition and opposition groups. In your booklet, you'll notice there's a table called How Consistent Were Methods of Repression 1855 to 1964. Okay, and you've got down the left-hand side some of the means of controlling people: secret police, army, censorship, propaganda, reforms that were made to try and appease different groups, and then Russification. What I want you to do, as you look at the instructions at the top of this table, it says in groups take one method and research it. What we normally do is maybe do like a museum thing where, like, a number of you have the secret police, and you put them we get big boards basically and put lots of pictures on and words on, and then people go around. You have to explain to them how the secret police were, etc., etc. Obviously, we can't do that task, so you're going to have to do it in this more boring way. Essentially, what I want you to do is to research the secret police under the czars and the communists. The most complicated thing about the secret police, the fact they keep changing their names, and give examples of their use of the secret police under czars and communists. You might need a bigger space than what's on this table. You might want to explain under both systems what they were called and what type of things they did, but you're looking for some examples. And again, have a think about what was the same and what was different between communist rulers and the czars in terms of their use of the secret police. Then do the same with the army. So I'm not so bothered about the army being abroad killing people. It's the army's use at home for suppressing uprisings, for suppressing opposition to the regimes, etc., etc. So again, what role did the army play in controlling people in Russia? What role and what examples are the army being used in that way? I'll give you a clue. There is a very good example in Khrushchev's time of the army being used to suppress a protest. They were used in 1905 under Nicholas II, so there's a few little clues there for you. Censorship. Now, we've already kind of done a little bit about this under Alexander II, so controlling what people were able to say and do. So have a look at censorship and then give examples of czars using censorship. And again, that should be fairly straightforward because you've already done Alexander II. And then think of examples of communists as well. Propaganda. So how did the czars use propaganda as a means of selling, if you like, their version. So we've already mentioned things like the cult of personality, for example, haven't we, under Stalin and Lenin to some extent. So have a think about propaganda and do some stuff on that. And then you've got the last two boxes, so I'm just trying to scroll down on the computer. You've got reform to appease and subsequently repress. So were there periods under the Tsars and communists where they made reforms, they perhaps lightened up on some of these means of repression? Then, as a consequence, they realised that they had to kind of put the thumb screws back on again because of some unhappiness. And then Russification. Again, we kind of mentioned Russification once or twice, this idea that everyone in the Russian Empire should be Russian. And again, under Alexander II, if you remember, did that stuff about Poland. So again, you've got a little bit of stuff there to find out about. Now, it's supposed to be largely a research task. What I want you to do, if you look on Moodle, there is a section called Reform, Repression, Appeasement, and there's a number of little books and articles on here. Murphy's Use of Terror, Lenin, Stalin, for example. Elkner's Russia's Secret Police, Evans and Jenkins. I'd use that one first, perhaps. It's about Russification of Alexander III. Got Westwood on the Checker, that's the Secret Police under Lenin. They kept changing the names of the Secret Police. I think it's Lenin the Checker, or is it Stalin? I always get them confused. You got Westwood, The People, Purge, Corrin and Fine, etc., etc. So use those resources and others as well, which you find to help you complete this table. You'll also notice there's actually a video on Stalin as well. Now, what we're going to do on Monday is we're going to look in particular at 1905, Lenin's terror and Stalin's terror. So this is a really good video. So you can either watch it now over the weekend or you can watch it next week. It's very good about how Stalin dealt with opposition and tried to suppress those who opposed him, etc., etc. It was rather nasty. I think that's fair enough to say. Just thinking about propaganda and Stalin, there was a programme on BBC 2, or it might have been BBC 4 last week. It was about music and how it's been used by kind of dictators. I can't remember what it's called Music for the Dictators. It's called something like that. I'm sure you go on iPlay, but I find it quite easily. Anyway, the second episode, it has a nice bit about Stalin and use of kind of music and this kind of Soviet realism as a means of propaganda, the type of music which he promoted. Basically, things that said how wonderful he was. It also talked about how he promoted in the Second World War certain historical czars as well. He was a great fan of Ivan the Terrible, surprisingly, and he promoted kind of operas and stuff around people like Ivan the Terrible. So I can't believe it's called Music for the Dictators, or it's called something like that. Again, look at iPlayer. It's worth having a quick watch. I just got now tells to do. So basically, for next Monday, what I'd like to do is this table essentially, and then underneath of these judgment questions, what was the most consistent form of repression? Did one method change over time? Which was the most effective at preventing opposition? And did any of these backfire on any of the rulers? So if you do that for Monday, and then on Monday I'll do another YouTube video, and then we'll have a look at three extremes of the use of terror, which is 1905, Lenin, and Stalin in particular. Okay, so that is that. And then also what we'll do next week then is that we'll look at opposition groups. So as I said, we're not that far off getting all this content done. So if you can do that stuff for Monday for me. Don't forget those paragraphs. I know some of you already sent them to me, so thank you very much. The rest of you, if you get them to me by tomorrow, that'd be great, and I'll have a quick skim over them. Make sure they're all on the right kind of lines. Okay, any problems, send me an email, and I'll do my best to come to your assistance.